Hello, cello players. Today we're going to be working on page 2 of Essential Elements for Strings, book 2. And the first step of any practice session is to tune your instrument. So if you have a tuner, that's the best way to do it. Go ahead and tune with the tuner. But if you want to try and tune by ear, we're going to go ahead and tune using the tuning track in the Essential Elements Interactive. And that is number 1 in the song list. So if you have access to the Essential Elements Interactive, go to the song list, and track 1 is always useful for tuning your instrument if you don't happen to have your tuner handy, or if you want to try doing it by ear. So let's go ahead and play the tuning track.
Here is the tuning note A. Here is the tuning note D. Here is the tuning note G. Here is the tuning note C for violas and cellos.
Okay, so next we're going to move on to number 2 in the book, which is really just your D major scale. Now, normally when we play scales in class or together, we repeat the top note of the scale and we play it all in unison. But this version is meant to be played in a round. That means that one group will start and then the other group will start a little bit later. So instead of repeating the top note, we're just going to play it once and then come right back down, and that's how this one is written. Now notice how they've taken care to mark where the half steps are in the scale. When you're playing a major scale, you always have a half step between the third note and the fourth note. So in this case, that's F sharp and G. So those are two fingers right next to each other, third finger and fourth finger, no finger in between them. And then on the D string, between C sharp and D is a half step. So again, no note in between them. So for this one, you'll be using your first finger, third finger, and fourth finger, and you will be skipping the second finger. We don't play our second finger note in D major on the D string or the A string. So let's go ahead and we're going to try playing it together first. I'm just going to go ahead and start with the recording at the beginning, and then we'll play it again and we'll try and do it as a round. So let's get the backing track queued up, and here we go. Now let's go ahead and try playing it as a round. I'm going to go ahead and start it again, and you go ahead and come in at the beginning of the backing track, and then I will follow you. So I'll be group 2. And you can see where it says 1 and 2 over the notes in your music. You're going to be number 1, so you'll go ahead and start at the beginning, and then when you get to the second measure, I will start at the beginning. 2, ready, you. Good job. As you're playing, let's make sure that you remember to keep your thumb nice and relaxed. It should be bent, and keep those fingers curved on the left hand. Make sure that you're not letting them cave in or straighten out at the top. Also, think about where your elbow is. You don't want your elbow to be down by your side. You want to keep it out to the side in the air. So your shape should look like this. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one. Next exercise is the D major arpeggio. And arpeggio is just basically a chord that is played one note at a time. So a D major chord, we call this a D major triad because it has 3 notes in it. It is D, F sharp, and A. Those are the 3 different notes. And then when we play it here, we're playing the D twice. So we're playing the low D and the high D. But it's the same note. So D, F sharp, and A is a D major arpeggio. So we're going to be skipping a few notes of our scale. Let's go ahead and play it along with the backing track. if you need to stop and work on that, you're welcome to. And as you're going through this today, it's okay to watch kind of to see how everything is played and then take some time to figure it out. And when you're reading a new exercise, it's sometimes helpful to go through some steps before trying to play it with everything all together. So, for example, you could go through and kind of name the notes, then maybe play pizzicato, and then maybe add the bow at a slow tempo, and then gradually work it up to tempo. Don't be frustrated if you can't sight read it the first time through. Usually it takes a little bit of work to get to the point where you can play each one. And I would really encourage you not to write in the letter names. If you need to write in some clues, please write fingerings, not letter names. So you could, for example, on the F sharp, instead of writing F sharp, write 3, reminding yourself that that is third finger. And then where our goal is to get to the point where we look at the note and we know where it is on the instrument and what finger to play it with, without really even going through the thought process of translating it to the letter name. So let's not write in letter names. That will slow you down in the long run. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one when you're ready, and you're welcome to pause the video at any time and work on the one that we just did and then try playing it again. The next one is D Major Mania. This one uses all the notes of the D major scale, so the same notes that we've been working on for this whole page. And it does not play them in the order of the scale, though, so it skips notes. So this is a good one for practicing a few leaping intervals. Everything's not stepwise, so you're sometimes skipping a note as you go from one note to the next. So let's go ahead, and when you're ready, play it with me with the backing track. Selection on page 2 is called Theme from London Symphony. This is by a composer named Haydn, and this one kind of mixes it all together using all of the notes of the D major scale, and it also uses some slurs. So pay careful attention to the bowing and make sure when you see that curved line connecting two notes that you're playing those two notes on the same bow stroke without stopping. So your bow will be moving mostly in half notes here. And sometimes you will play two notes within that half note bow stroke, but there are other times when you're playing quarter note bowings when there are separate bows. So pay careful attention to the bowing and also getting the notes in tune. Nicely done. So that does it for the songs on page 2. You're encouraged to spend as much time as you need to practicing each one before moving on to the next. And happy practicing. Good luck, and let me know if you need help with anything or if you have any questions.